Soon giving in is time, 'cause we're falling apart. Love didn't find your heart. Nights didn't count, lies didn't count at all. Love didn't find your heart. Signs didn't count, it tear us apart.
Welcome. It is Sunday, 19th of August. It is 5 p.m. So it's time for a bit more CAD like nobody's watching. My goodness, today has gone in a heartbeat. I feel like I've barely gotten started and it was already time to come and do some CAD modeling. Hopefully, everybody else has had a good weekend and will enjoy this last hour before GNT o'clock. I've been thinking a little bit about what I want this stream ultimately to become as I've been experimenting. This is now episode 6. I feel like, I would be happy. Obviously, I'm happy enough just sitting here on my own for an hour and doing some CAD. That's the primary function. But as I've spoken to a few people in different kind of CAD groups and such on Facebook, I feel like we all have this challenge, which is trying to spend the time to learn, trying to experiment. So maybe one day this will turn into a little bit of CAD club where people can spend time co-located across the internet and thinking about how to improve their skills in CAD, get some new modeling done. That's what I'm going to be doing anyway. So let's start with a recap of my day, which I say has gone very quickly. My goodness. So only a couple of pictures to offer, but yesterday we were in this very show modeling up this bracket, which I printed overnight, bracket and screw clamps, so that I could take the various mounts I've been using that started out as mounts for my balcony railing, and now I'm like, well, I can multifunction, use them. So this was a printed out bracket The screw threads work fantastically, fit really nice and snug, didn't have to do any adjustments, just right off the bed like that. Here I'm attaching it to a little side arm that I put on the side of my Franken chair, which if you look back a couple of videos in YouTube, you'll see my Franken chair, and just checking it out as a place to hold my drink whilst spin on my chair. So very happy about how that came out. That was some excellent work yesterday. So this little experiment of spending the time CAD is already paying off as I actually do make more things. The other thing that I spent doing, which has been my perennial background task, is CNCing all of these tiny little pieces of wood into little ripples for this absurd door idea that I've been working on. It is coming along. I've got all the pieces done pretty much for 2 of the 3 panels, starting on the 3rd. Most of these aren't really stuck down or finished yet. I kind of want to make sure I keep everything in line, so I'm probably gonna get as many of the pieces done as I've got, and then start gluing up kind of vertical lines all the way through all panels and across that way. So that progress abounds. Anyway, let's talk CAD. My goodness. So yesterday at the end of the stream, I was starting to play a little bit in sculpt mode, and I decided to spend a little bit more time on that this morning. So I wanted to show what that looks like. Now this isn't anything in particular. This was just me experimenting with creating a sculpted object and bringing it back. So this is now a body. So this is literally this body. So it's a regular cube that is solid attached to this thing, and I've kind of cut various bits and bobs into it just to sort of experiment with what that means. And so at the end, I will probably go back into Sculpt and sort of revisit some of this stuff, get it more settled in my brain. But really starting to see the power of that. I think it's going to be quite awesome, particularly when I want to do copying of things. And my wife is really keen on making a chess set. I think we're probably going to do that in this mechanism. So I will come back to this later. But if anyone has any questions about sculpt mode and what I've learned in my incredibly brief time playing with it, I would be very happy to try and share that. But in the meantime, I think the main thing I'm going to spend some time on today is making a model for dust collection for my CNC router. So I've been running it, obviously, as I mentioned, for the door for quite a bit. And I don't have any dust collection on it. I just sort of hoover up after each time, and that works for me most of the time, actually. But it would be nice to have the ability. Again, I did have one a long time ago, but I have since changed everything around, and I kind of would like to do something a bit more sophisticated, and now I have a 3D printer. That is an option. Hello, there are some people on the stream. Say hi in the chat. So that's what I'm going to focus on. Let's just get rid of some of this stuff. Don't save that. And if anyone has any questions, jump right in and ask them. I will always try and answer if I have them. And if there's anything they want me to actually dive into whilst I'm doing this, then feel free to ask. Okay, so the main reference point I have for my dust collection is it is an 80mm spindle. And that's pretty much the only thing that is really fixed. I think, I guess I have a limited amount of space behind the spindle, so there's a limit to how deep I can go with that. I'm going to guess that it's, I probably want no more than a 10mm exterior on that. That's not quite right, is it? That would be, I want 10mm either side. So pretty basic starting point, I guess, which is oh, there we are. which is a ring that will actually fit around the spindle. Now, I've seen some designs where it's sort of a two-part mechanism, which is the clamp around the spindle and the holder for the vacuum collection, and then magnetically attaching to the bottom of that the actual dust shoe, which has sort of bristles and such. And I think that is the way I would like to go. I also would like to figure out how I want to actually clamp on. Again, I've seen a few different options. I might just go for the straightforward cut a slot out of this and put some mechanism that I can use to screw either side. What I do want is to think about, let's come up here again. Now, the hose port is, well, that's a good question. Exactly what do I want to do? I can probably use the dimensions from my own 3D printed hose nozzle to figure out, but I think we'll go with about 35-ish. And I can always adjust that later if I need to. And where I think things get quite interesting is trying to allow for the hose to come in maybe slightly at an angle from the main bed. So we're going to try that. And see how we get on. So if I think the fairly classic profile for these things, let's sketch. I really want to pick up off the edge of there. Actually, let's do this as a spline. Oh yeah, I'd forgotten that they do these new spline points. That's what I want to do. Come here. Turn on the first sketch, that's what I want. Turn off the body. Why is that sketch not active? Because I'm I'm not on the same sketch. I probably do want to be. Let's delete that bad boy. Yep, forget it. Go away. Come back to here. I want to edit this sketch in this occasion because it'll be convenient to connect things together. So let's just reference off that center line. We'll have 35. And then we will spline ourselves some nice kind of exterior profile that can connect up to that. And then what we'll probably do is mirror that over. Come on. Oh, I forget that you don't default to getting the axes as mirrors. Let's create a construction line. We'll just, that'll do. And then we'll mirror across the construction line. And there we go. Nice exterior profile. So, actually I don't want to do that. I want to come back to here where I'd already extruded. Come on, move the timeline. Oh, stop sketch. Now move the timeline. Modify this extrude to now include that as well. So, how am I going to connect? The trick with dust collection is you need enough enough space to not get clogged up with debris, but not so much that you lose suction. So I think, a lot of this material needs to come away as part of connecting between these 2 points. Actually, I'm also thinking that I might want to twist this whole thing so that it's not making a sharp corner, so that it comes out at an angle. Maybe that would be a nice thing to try. Can I? No. Yeah, so actually that does make more sense. There needs to be a round port somewhere for the hose to connect into snugly, but I think the way it should access it down towards the spindle base is a more directed path without that sharp corner. That is what we'll do. So I would like to, let's sketch on this plane for a second, because so this has got the spindle in it. And in fact, I tell you what I'm going to do, just so that I have it to reference off of. Let's give ourselves a spindle to look at. New body. Let's come down by a smidge as well. Okay, so let's assume that broadly is what's in the way, I guess. So I want this. Oh, did that join? Why have I got only one body? I thought I said new body. I obviously didn't select it properly. That's better. Oh, right, yeah. So that's why, because I extend in both directions. Got to pay attention. So those can come together. You and you and you and you join. Right. So there's a clamp that needs to be figured out exactly how that pulls in. And maybe, say, if I cut a wedge that way, I could probably have just like an Allen key screw in diagonally that just pulls that together. That might be quite nice and low profile. I think I can get away with this being a little bit closer. And then ultimately I want... So let's modify our first sketch again. I think you can come in a bit. Come on. I want to move you, please. Move you in like that. And let's move you in a bit. Okay, and let's just modify our... Modify our spline. Ooh, that's exciting, spline line. Just neaten that up a little bit. So that's a little bit more tucked close. And what I probably want to do is have have a turret here that comes up more, and then that port. So in fact, this might end up being the bottom. I kind of want to curve a path through. I have an idea. I'm just gonna fill that in for a sec. I'm gonna sketch on this top plane. Let's take an arc that is. Do I need an arc, or can I? I could probably just use. Let's. And so I want this to come up more like that. So there's a more solid body, and we'll refine that momentarily. I don't really need all that guff. And so I have this idea that if I create a construction... what do I want? I want a plane... I mean, actually, do I need a new plane? I guess I'm already on the origin planes, right? I think I'm already on the origin, so let's try sketching against this plane. So what I'm thinking is if I create a spline from kind of here like that. So I have this curve running like that. Now I'm going to create a plane along path, select that bad boy, and then I'm going to draw the port on that plane, 35, comma, and then we're going to go a sweep of that profile along that path. Look at that. So let's say yes to that. Now I think I probably want to cut out of there as well, but that's the sort of idea I was thinking of, which is we'd have a smoother transition through that path for the dust collection, so it doesn't have a corner to deal with. And I can probably actually kill that part of this circle as well, because whilst I have the spindle there, I think I'll probably in reality have this thing clamped more like right flush with that. So I want this hole to be pointing down, and there will be a shroud around this. So let's just come back to our path here. So you cut, right, and you literally, because that's the end of my path, I should have drawn my path a bit longer. Let's do that. Not that sketch. This sketch. So I kind of want to just extend out that spline from that point. Just bring it down to there. Okay, and now let's edit this feature and select the full path. Boom. That's kind of what I'm thinking. It's a shame that you have this, but I think that's probably okay. So hopefully all of the airflow will be pointing pretty much down. I mean, if you think normally your spindle head is around here, I'm going to have a magnetized on base. So that is pretty good. And in fact, so there's my circular section. I kind of want to, let's switch this sketch plane back on and edit that sketch. What I want to do is create what will be the outer circle. Let's make him 45. Excellent. And so what I should be able to then do is extrude him down. Does that look right? Bom bom. See, the thing is, I'm not following the path with that extrude. What I want is, okay, let's see about doing another sweep of you along this sketch plane, but only come this far and do a join. Beautiful, beautiful. Yes, Kyle, that is dust collection for a CNC. That is the idea, at least. I've had spindle going for a while, and I don't have dust collection at the moment. I'm going to steal an idea where I have the dust shoe as a magnetized on separate piece. So this is just going to provide a mount point for a standard hose connector that will clamp onto the spindle, and then separately I'll design the base and try and get some bristles sorted out. What I want to do now is clean up some of this gubbins that doesn't really need to be there, and there's already a clamp around the CNC itself which is holding it to the machine. So I need to let's just get rid of some of this stuff. Let's just arc it. I kind of we'll go to the midpoint and we'll just trim like that, and we'll mirror you across. That construction line is not on this sketch plane. Let's create another construction line which is on this sketch plane. I want, come on, like that, and then now we'll mirror over that guy, and then I can just chop off those wings like this. Bum, bum, bum. Now hopefully I'm going to do that without. Good. So this really just becomes pretty much just material to provide that directional connection. Hopefully that will be out of the way of my current spindle. So I still need to do the clamping mechanism, and I think I'm tempted to take a leaf out of the Prusa book, and we'll just create like a wedge like this maybe. If you see where I'm going with this. No, come on, just that. So you'll be a wedge, and then we'll draw a circle on this guy. It doesn't really need to be. So we'll make him an M5, I think. And what we'll do is we'll punch that out like that. Yes, please. And we'll turn that sketch back on and we'll punch him in a bit. So we've got a hole through there, and in theory I should be able to create a slot. Now, do I want to do that? I could just thread the hole. Do you think threading the hole will be enough? I mean, I've had reasonably good success with large threads. This is quite a small one. I'm going to need to flatten off this connection, or at least I'm going to need to make a larger thing for the head of a bolt to rest against. Now the CNC. Well, let's try this. Let's do it this way, because this is how. I don't want to edit that sketch. I want to create a new sketch, really. Let's sketch upon you, please. Yeah. And what I want to do is create this at a weird angle. So basically this is just make a recess to drop a nut into that sort of backs up that hole. So let's do it this way. Just check that I am, on center for that. So if I do something a little like this, and then drop you down until you intersect. So in theory, you could drop your nut into that, slot your bolt through there, and use that to clamp everything together. Yeah, I think you're right, Carl. I think the nut will be stronger, particularly at M6 or M5. Like, it's just going to give a little bit more grippy. I may need to come back and refine this once I've checked what kind of hardware I have hanging around. But I do need to flatten off this fella. So what I would like to do is probably make another plane. Actually, do I need to do that? I could just, for the sake of argument, I'm just going to use this plane because so if I just make let's say a 10 mil circle like that, spinny again, and then we'll just extrude you through there, and actually I might say join. There we go. So that just gives a nice flat surface to actually screw into that hole against. And let's just check the measurement. I think from there to where do I want to check it to? From there to there is 30 mil. Might be a little. No, that's. Where did I get 30 mil from? Oh, it's because that's the selection. 17 mil. That's more like it. So yeah, it sort of a 25mm bolt will do the business there with a nut in that. That should give us a pretty nice firm. Yes, I am planning to 3D print this, so I think I'll probably print it in this orientation, so it won't really need supports. These holes might not come out beautiful, but I can always drill them out, particularly if I'm using the nut, so I don't think that's a concern. And actually, yeah, I think that's another advantage to having this fairly sweeped hole. I'll print it in PETG because I love PETG at the moment. It's my favourite material. It's nice and strong. I don't know that I need this whole height, but for the moment, let's assume we're okay. So what I'm going to do now is put some recesses in this bottom surface for magnets. That will hold the actual dust chute itself on. Now I have a bunch of, I want to say, I think they are 5 by 5 mil. What would probably be good is actually I could probably just eyeball them. Like, I reckon if I just stick them at somewhat reasonable intervals, then we'll end up with reasonable holding. The important thing, I guess, will be to line them up on the bottom side. I want enough that it's definitely going to be held securely. Let's mirror those. Over that. Forget the other side. Very nice. And then I should be able to just extrude all of those guys. Actually, I'd probably need to stop sketch, come back to current day, now extrude these guys down by, I think, I want to say 5 mil, 5 by 5, that's what they are. Let's just get the last part of that as well. Comme ça. And bar 5. That's a little bit close to that clamping point, but that's not so bad. Oh, now there's an interesting point. I mean, I guess the magnetic base will be fairly forgiving, but obviously if this is tweaked in, it will mess with the alignment a little bit. But I think, switch off the spindle. That is going to be the basis of my dust extractor. Now, I'm assuming at this point that my dust extraction is going to come out on the left side of the spindle, and I'm going to be tightening in this way. It occurs to me that that may not necessarily be the best option. I've got where it's currently positioned is that this is probably easier for the dust extraction to come in from the right hand side. So let me just mirror this fella. Move copy, let's create a copy, and actually, do I want to create, no, let's literally mirror him. Not faces, I want to mirror the body, thank you very much. And the mirror plane might as well be that. Excellent. Oh, I could have I could have two. I could literally have a port on each side for double the extraction, although that would really not work very well. Okay, so this would be the version I'd probably actually use, because then I can have dust extraction on the side of the machine that I want to drive it from. Pretty happy with how that looks at the moment. Now, gosh, my goodness, it's 5:37 already. I'm not going to do the base to this right now. I'm going to switch back to doing a little bit of playing in sculpt mode because I need to practice. A bit more. So Carl, I don't know if you saw me at the beginning of this. This was something I played with earlier today. It's nothing in particular. I just created it in sculpt and then played with some various techniques once I'd sort of brought the body back in and like figuring out how to take a sculpted, what do they call them, T-spline bodies, and turning them into real solid objects. And I did a few things like cut out sort of a profile along the path that was left between some of these panels, cut out some hexagon stuff, drilled some holes, bored a hole all the way through it, just to sort of experiment a bit. But what I'm probably going to do is start from scratch and kind of repeat a similar-ish exercise, mostly because I just need to get it in my brain how this works. So let's start with actually let's start with a whole new file. And what I quite enjoyed was that you can define your kind of parts of your model classically, I guess you might say. So let's say I have a 20 by 50 mount point, which is basically just a box, and that this is going to be something I want to connect, something that's a little bit more ambitious to. So let's create our form, enter the sculpt environment, and we'll create a let's go with box for the moment, I think. We'll do that, and we'll make him kind of yay big. So there are a bunch of things you can specify when you're creating them about how many panels, which is kind of cool. So okay, yeah, so I can have panels in that direction, panels in that direction. So let's do that. So one of the things I learned earlier was, I guess, to stop thinking of this like a solid object. It isn't a solid object at all. And part of that is you can delete faces just like that, and it magically joins them all together again. The other amazing thing, so double click selects a whole continuous ring. So if I edit this, I can drag it up and down, and that's one thing. But what you can also do is, on the same thing, you can hold down Alt and pull up, and it adds like another set of panels. And then you can do Alt again, and it adds another set of panels. You do Alt again, adds another set of panels. And every time you do that, you kind of end up with this more straight thing. So it's kind of an interesting way to loft between what was a shape and kind of spurn off to one side, which is pretty sweet. And I kind of want to experiment with doing that. Let's do it this way as well, just because I feel like I need to just understand more intuitively what that means. So let's press Alt and give ourselves a bit more, and a bit more. So it's kind of an interesting way to be able to create these offshoots and such. Now I don't have anything particular in mind at this point to model, so something else you can do is define your symmetry. So let's try doing that. So if that's the front and that's the back, it's like I thought that is sufficient, but it's not giving me an OK button. I don't know why. I don't know why, but in theory you're supposed to be able to say, like, define the front and the back that represents where your symmetry line needs to be, and then it will help you maintain symmetry from then on. But possibly I've already done too much damage before telling it that, and it can't figure it out. Okay, for the moment, I just want to play with, because you can move points. You can move points, lines, or whole faces. So that's moving that point. Okay. Which creates some really interesting dynamics. Okay, so it probably would be more useful if I had an idea of what I wanted to achieve, but I'm going to try and push this fella inside. So if I do this, holding Alt again to give myself an extra, oh no, that's not what I wanted. I selected the wrong control. Come on, that guy. And in again. So that's very cool. I think this for 3D printing could be quite interesting. You could make objects that are not that you print that have internal kind of ducting and such, which is perhaps a little easier to do like this than it would otherwise be. So what I should be able to do with this as well, if I edit form, now I should be able to rotate that entire like that. Oh yes. And now if I do that, that's pretty sweet. Now I'm going to reduce that and bring him up again. Going to bring that up to here, and then I'm going to flatten him out again. That's so cool. So now I have a path that runs up through into here. I mean, I have no use no use for this at all, other than the fact that it seems pretty sweet. I wonder if I can create a connection between this guy and this guy. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted. Don't do that. I kind of want to patch between you. Bridge, maybe? Let's see what happens if I bridge, because that is something that they used in the example. Let's bridge it. Let's bridge it. Come on, between you, side 1, and you, side 2. Ooh. Ooh, my goodness. What is that? if I select OK. Ooh. Well, that worked. So now I have this weird structure with an internal whatnot. Okay, I'm going to try now to make this notionally solid. I'm going to try and join this end to this connector, which I mean, it doesn't do anything, but it is an interesting. So let's just move this guy like that, and let's rotate him around like that. Ooh, I completely off weird axis now. 90 degrees. No. I've got myself somewhat at a weird position. Okay, let's do this. So now convert. This is where things get pretty crazy. So B-rep face to T-spline basically means I can select the face of a body that exists in the main area and map it into a T-spline face of its own, which is cool. But what you then do is, much as I did with this previous thing, if I delete, no, don't delete all of them, just those 4. Delete these 4. Edit this guy. We'll bring him up a little bit like that, and then we'll Alt to get ourselves another, and then Alt to get ourselves another. And now what I'm going to do, oh yeah, I should probably actually move this guy a bit more usefully. You see what I'm doing? You see what I'm doing? He can go over there. I mean, this is a ridiculous mismatch, but now you can use that bridge thingy again. So if I do that for side 1 and that for side 2, the edges from one side must be equal to or a multiple of the other side. Oh, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 edges on that side, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 edges on that side. Interesting. So if I split these 2 end pieces, then I will be in the same boat, I believe. Insert edge. I want to insert the edge the other way. Minus 50, minus 0.5. Comme ça. I think that does that. And then let's do the same thing on this side. Repeat insert edge. 0.5. So that, if I understood the error message properly, should mean that I can now bridge, because this has the same number of and just like that. Just like that. Look at him. He's beautiful. Okay, so now I can say finish perform. And we're back in regular model space, and I have my normal box and my T-spliney whatnot, which is not a real solid object at this point. And so you need to do a boundary fill, where you select him and you select him, and then you say, yes, I want that cell, and I want that cell. Go, new body. and turn off that, I now have this guy, and this guy is a solid body with a really funky, weird, swoopy, centery thing for no reason. But so this isn't a real anything, obviously. But I'm quite excited about the possibilities there. And you can do, you've got all these interesting lines along the contours. And what I was playing with earlier was this idea of saying, create myself a plane along a path. So let's say this guy, and this guy. And then once you've got a plane, you can sketch on him. So let's just do this and switch the plane on so I can actually see it. So if I do like a 2 mil, just a tiny bead like that, I can then say sweep my little bead profile along this path like that. Come on, show me the paths. And like this and like that. And it's probably going to complain because that is a crazy amount of turning, but I can drag, come on, back. It does not, paths are really weird to deal with because if they take too much of a jagged line, then they freak out. But there we are, that's sort of a bit more like it, and I can do that. And that leaves me with this really funky little carved in trenchy line, which could just as easily have been an exterior bead rather than a cove. I like it. It's got potential. It has got potential. Right. I am conscious that it is a few more minutes before GNT o'clock. Well, let me just check my timer. 5 minutes to GNT o'clock. How about that? Any questions? Kyle, you're the only one here, so you have my undivided attention. So if you do want to ask me anything or suggest I check or try things, then go right ahead. I need to think a bit more about how to make the best use of this new interesting sculpt capability. Do you like this idea? Like, I'm not sure exactly how useful this shape would be, but like, this is certainly not a profile I would have been able to do. And if you look back at this, where I created a simple spline and rotated a nice easy circular pattern along it, like, that's all very cool. But now I've done this, I'm thinking, well, I could potentially take a sort of a regular sort of circular port and flare it out. It does, yeah, kind of like a duck with a hole in the middle. I don't know, maybe. But I do like this idea that I could, I might redo some of that dust collection port to say it has a standard circular top, but it flares out and round so that it doesn't have to stay that just round profile all the way through, which could give me the opportunity to like really flare this out more, which could be pretty useful. I'll have to think about how to do that. I mean, in this classic sense, I could just kind of carve sections, but there's something to this technique, I think. Now, one thing is, none of these are flat faces, so you can't use them as sketch planes, I discovered earlier, which is kind of annoying. But you can do So you can do holes. So the holes work on faces, and you can like position them however you want and such like. Which, that's fine. But I was kind of hoping when I played with it earlier that I'd be able to sketch on any of these and have the same effect that I would be able to have, because you sort of feel like, it's not very flat, but what I ended up doing was creating a plane kind of nearby and just projecting a shape through. Yeah, I think you're right. To be able to focus the suction around the end mill, and maybe I'll actually do something a bit more clever with. I mean, I do like the idea that I'd have a top section and a bottom section, and the section that has bristles, etc. But like the actual spindle is. Well, let me just draw this quickly. So that's like the body of the spindle, but like there's maybe a 30-ish mil diameter actual bit that comes out of there. No, don't. I'm just trying to estimate how. Come on, stop that sketch. How far down the actual end mill piece is, and it's kind of like there's maybe that much shaft. So you kind of almost want to extend this beneath this section and then maybe wrapped around. The only problem is if you get it too small, then you're gonna, I've particularly where I've been milling all these oak strips, like that does not come off as sawdust. A lot of that comes off as like really fibrous lengths, which just bung up the works. Anyway, we are approaching the end of our time very rapidly. It is, oh my goodness, it's 14 seconds. 14 seconds until dinner at 10 o'clock. So, well, thank you very much, Carl. You've been keeping me company whilst I mull this over. I hope it's been at least not entirely boring. And maybe we can build up a little group of people who want to play with CAD on a Saturday and a Sunday afternoon and spend time learning the tool. I think that is all from me this week. Thank you very much for watching. If you watch it after the fact, this has been Make a Geek. I've been Dan. This has been CAD like nobody's watching. And I'll be back next Saturday at 5 o'clock. If only I didn't have a day job, I could do this more often. Thank you very much. Have a good week.